Welcome to Chromalution.com. I'm Stephen Burns, and I'm going to continue to explore this concept of using selections. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. I want to utilize my selections to isolate my primary compositional elements. Looking at the image here, we have three primary elements that's making up the composition. Our concrete pylon, or remnants of a pier. We have our background, and we have the foreground. Now, the background is definitely competing with the subject in its tonality, and that is fairly bright, as well as sharp in nature. And I'm going to want to kind of take this down visually by blurring it, as well as bring down the tonality of the background, so that our foreground, the main subject matter, our primary subject matter, is going to come forward. Again, we want to use those deeper tones to catapult the medium range and brighter tones toward giving us a three-dimensional depth or three-dimensional feel. The foreground is competing with the image because it's much brighter than our primary subject matter, so I also want to modify that as well to enhance my image. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by selecting the background. I'm going to go ahead and select the magic wand tool. I can click it here on the bar, or I can hit the W. And since the sky is fairly one color, I'm going to select it, and it's going to select it pretty well. Now, with the magic wand, I'm going to have to hold the shift key to continue to select areas that I've missed. Let's go ahead and zoom in closer, holding the space bar to move around. Holding the shift key is going to allow me to add to my selection, which is in between these areas around the rebar that I've missed. And just come back on over to here, hold the shift key, and continue to select these other areas as well. Alright, that's pretty good. Come back over, holding the space bar to move around. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and pull back and see what else we have to do. We have the rest of the image on the bottom here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to add to the selection by switching from the magic wand tool to the quick selection tool. By using my bracket keys to the right and left, which was next to the P key on my keyboard. The bracket to the right makes my brush bigger, and the one to the left makes it smaller. So let's pull it down just a little bit, and I don't need to hold any modifiers because by nature this brush will continue to select as long as we continue to paint. And let's go over to the other side and bring it down, and it's done. Alright, let's zoom in closer and see some of the areas that we've missed here. Let's bring down the brush a little bit, hold down the Option key, and start to paint. And this particular tool learns. It actually will anticipate what it is you actually wanted to keep and discard. Come over here to the center. We see we've missed some areas right over here to the right. And I'm going to use the Option key and start to paint in this little edge that I've missed. And again, this particular tool says, okay, you actually wanted to keep that edge. Just go up to the edge is all we want to do. And it knows that. So once again, Option, I'm going to pull this back a little bit. The same thing down in here. Now, if you have to, get in closer. And don't be shy about getting as close as possible, because we want to make sure we have a nice, accurate selection around our image. Alright, so it looks pretty good in here. Let's go ahead and zoom it out using Option and the spacebar held down together while I click and drag my mouse left to right. So, looking at the bottom, it looks good. Now I've missed a little bit of an area right down here. Hold the Option key and go ahead and pull that out. Alright, so that's all I really care about at this point. And I might go ahead and add a little bit more of a selection there. That looks great. And let's zoom it back. I can zoom forward a little more and hold the Option key and go ahead and select a little more of that brighter sand. Alright, okay, so attention to detail is always important. I get in a little closer, inspect the edges, make sure that I have exactly what I need. Alright, now I'm going to utilize this to make adjustments to our background. Now I've done a lot of hard work on this one, so let's go ahead and save our selection. Select menu, save the selection. Let's go ahead and call this one background, okay? And click OK. Now let's modify the background. I'm going to use a shortcut here for hiding our selections, which I would like you to be very careful of when you're using it, because you're going to forget that you've hid the selection. If I hit Command or Control H for hide, it's hid the selection. It's still there. It's just that you can't see it. Now, why is this important? Because now I can see the effects without the marching ants getting in the way. So, image menu, adjustment, levels, or I can use Command or Control L. So this is where we're going to start applying our levels command. Command or Control L. Here's our levels. Let's go ahead and pull it over to the side here. And let's bring down the background. I don't want to increase the contrast in the background because I don't want it to compete with my primary subject matter, which is the remains of my pier, which is our stone pillar here. So let's go ahead and bring down the midtones and bring them richer and darker, and we've isolated that background pretty well. Now let's zoom in a little closer so we can see what we've done. Right up in here, you're going to see a nice little dark edge, which is the result of that selection being a little bit too hard. So I'm going to soften these edges a little bit. So let's cancel out the levels so we don't apply the levels. And I'm going to hit Command or Control, Command or Control H for unhide. Now, this next step we're going to do, you're not going to be able to see it visually what's happening, but you're going to see it when we apply the levels again. If I go over to my select menu, why? Because I'm going to modify a selection. Let's go to modify and let's say feather this. Let's feather this by 2 pixels, all right? We're going to make a nice subtle edge. It's going to feather the edge a little bit so we're not getting such a hard edge. Now, let's go to Command or Control J. Not J, actually that was a mistake. Let me go ahead and undo that one. And let's go Command or Control H for hide. Now we're ready for our levels. Command and Control or Control levels, or L for levels, and we bring it down and look at the edges. It transitions much better. Okay, now let's go ahead and zoom this down so we can see the results. All right, so the background isn't competing so much with my foreground. See, actually the stone pillar is starting to come out a little bit more. So let's go ahead and click OK. Let's also hit a Command or Control H to unhide it so we can see what's going on here. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I want to isolate pretty much the stone structure alone. So we'll continue to use our quick selection tool. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. And if on the PC, if I hold the Option key down and right click and hold, I can resize my mouse as I drag it back and forth. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger and start to select these areas here. I'm selecting just the foreground information. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little closer. That went a little bit much. Option, right click, drag to the left a little bit to bring it down. Option key, and using my quick selection tool, I'm going to bring back in the selections into the pillar. Let's bring it down. There we go. And pull that on in. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's pull it on out. And what we've done is we have everything else selected but around the pillar. So let's inverse this. Select menu Y, because we're going to modify selection. Inverse it. Now the pillar is selected. Let's save this selection. Select menu, modify, and let's not modify it just yet, okay? How about if we just save this selection first? And I'm going to call this one pillar and click OK. All right, so it's done. So let's modify this the stone pillar here. Command or Control L. Let's increase the richness. And you see I still have my marching ants. I can still hit the Command or Control H to hide it so you can see the results without them being in your way. And let's go and grab the white slider, bring it to the base of the curve so that we can establish a better highlight. So we have our histogram here, our black slider, midtones and whites. Bringing our black to the base of the curves establishes a better darker value and a brighter white. And of course we can adjust our midtones accordingly. So as you can see, it's really starting to be that this main subject is actually coming forward here. So let's go ahead and click OK. Hit Command or Control H so we can see our selection again. And what I like to do next is actually select the foreground, make it independent. So let's go over here to my quick selection tool. Let's make it a little bit larger. There we are. And let's hit Command or Control D to deselect my selection. And let's go ahead and select this foreground. Not bad. Option click, bring it back. If I spilled in too much, zoom close. There we are. Let's go ahead and click that one and we're going to come back in here, modify this a little bit more. Let's go ahead and select this bush and a little bit of sand that's down in here, and let's finish selecting that there. And we're going to go ahead and apply our curves. Now once again, we're applying it on the one image here, the one layer. Let's go to our levels, Command or Control L, bring down the tonality here. Let's go ahead and hide the selection. There. Okay, that's better. Bring down the tonality so that it's not competing so much against your pillar. Alright, so we're just about done. Let's go and modify the background. So we made a selection of the background, didn't we? So let's go back to our channel. So the key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. So right here is my background. Take a look at it, and I'm going to make a selection. Everything that's white is what's selected. Everything that's black has been masked out. So if I hold down my Control or Command key and click and release on the icon in this mask, it will give me the marching ants equivalent. Why? Because selections and masks are exactly the same thing. Alright, so let's go back up in here, go back to my layers, and let's modify the background just a little bit. Let's go here to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Blur it out just a little bit. There it is. Command H so we can see what's going on. And there it is. Click OK. There it is. We've got it. So the background is blurred out. Tonality is subdued just a little bit, as well as the foreground has been brought down. Let's do a before and after. Let's see what we had before. Let's go ahead and bring this in a little bit more. Before and after. Before and after. Before and after. Alright, so we just gave you a quick little tutorial on the use of levels and selections, and using selections to modify localized elements in your photographic image. And hope you enjoyed it. I'm Stephen Burns. Enjoy.